No Pixels After Dark is on location in Columbia, Pennsylvania. We're outside Lancaster. You're probably wondering, why is he here? Why is he not in Baltimore? Well, we got some Baltimore connections coming. We'll be right back after these messages.
OpenWorks is Baltimore's largest makerspace, offering access to tools ranging from 3D printers to welder, and training in how to use them. OpenWorks also offers affordable studio space, a coffee shop, and fun-free events throughout the year. But OpenWorks is more than a public workshop. It's a community of creative professionals, students, seniors, entrepreneurs, and makers of all kinds. Check out the website at www.openworksbmore.org or Instagram at open_works_bmore for class schedules, membership options, and more.
No Pix After Dark is sponsored by Snug Books, an independent bookstore serving Northeast Baltimore and beyond. In addition to featuring new books for all ages, the store also carries cards, stationery, gifts, games, and more. Visit snugbooks.com to shop online, learn more about the store, read our latest newsletter, and find a calendar of events, or come browse the store in person. Snug Books is located at 4717 Harford Road, next to Zeke's Coffee in Hamilton, Laurelville. There is free parking behind the store, and open hours are Tuesday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Welcome to the No Pixels After Dark podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Dante. We are on location in PA. I'm so excited for this episode. This has been something that's been in the works for a while, and if you saw where I am right now, it is beautiful. This beautiful room, the aesthetics, wow. So I'm with Corey and Leigh. How are you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
This is amazing. I mean, tell people a little bit about you guys. We're at an Airbnb in Columbia, and so Pennsylvania. So tell us a little bit about you guys. How did we end up here?
It's been a long road. We've lived in Baltimore for 15 years, and Baltimore is home for sure. And about in 2015 or so, we decided to be a little industrious and use our house in Baltimore as an Airbnb to make some extra money. And we got the idea from some of our best friends who were renting their house in Annapolis and doing really well with it. So we did it. And it was our primary residence, and we put locks on the closets type of thing, and would do it on the weekends and go take a trip somewhere, and kind of snowballed that into our first official Airbnb in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. Okay. And snowballed into another Airbnb, and then now this.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a wild ride with it. We've had a lot of fun with learned a lot over the time of renting out your own space and scampering away when people are renting your house, and just kind of scaled that over time and from a smaller cabin into the other properties. And each time we get a little bit more industrious in terms of what we're willing to do, and bringing up the properties and making them really, really cool places for folks to stay at.
So people are probably wondering, you guys are from Baltimore. Where did you guys used to live in Baltimore when you lived there? Where did you live?
We lived in Canton and Brewers Hill for 15 years. Yeah, started at Corey used to have a blog called Baltimore Row House, and we were renovating his, right after we moved in together, renovating his row house together. And I mean, our style has definitely changed and matured since then. I think there was a green wall in the kitchen, and it was pretty bad.
Yeah, you can even see the green wall, and we actually got an HGTV at one point, yeah. And it was on it, and it was critiqued, rightly so. So it's been fun. So we started off kind of renovating on things, and over time have just kind of played with that, and we kind of keep running with it. And I love projects, and Leigh likes to design, so it's a good fit.
I love hearing about that. It's fascinating because this place is beautiful. I mean, when you drove up, it was just wow. Fresh air. You're out the city, So, are you guys originally from Baltimore? Give us a little background about you guys.
No, we're Midwesterners. I'm from Illinois and moved around quite a bit, and went to University of Illinois. And after college, I lived in Chicago for a year. But then my family had moved out here, my parents and siblings, when I was in college. So, kind of wanted to be closer to home, and never left. I mean, I love Charm City. It feels like home. Unfortunately, we had a little tragedy in December, and we had a fire at our home, and we were displaced. We had to relocate up here, which I guess worked out because we're working on this project. But we are very much missing Baltimore and looking forward to going back. And my day job, I work in Baltimore, so I go down once or twice a week. So.
Yeah, and I'm originally from Michigan. Went to University of Michigan, go Blue, and eventually transitioned for a short stint down to the Gulf Coast for work. So on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi and Alabama, realized it's very hot there, and switched back up to Baltimore. It's still hot, but not quite as much, and stuck around Baltimore for the most part. And the past few months, been exploring PA. I mean, the fun part about taking on these projects is you get to drop yourself, in these new areas and immerse yourself and check out everything that the areas have to offer.
Yeah.
So it's
we call it market research. It's like go out and find the best restaurants, because we want to be able to make the personal recommendations to our guests. When they come and book with us, they're not just looking for a bed to sleep in. They also want to, check out the area and find the best places to go while they're visiting. So
Now, I ask all my guests this question. What is your favorite childhood memory growing up?
Oh, man.
I know mine. I have a picture of it too. I'll show you the picture later. But my sister, so I'm the oldest of three siblings, and we would go visit my grandmother in Chicago, my sister and my cousin. And my grandmother was a masseuse, and she was also like kind of eccentric, Grandma Rosie. And we would just explore and like find what weird stuff Grandma had around the house. And like, I remember her, so she would teach us how to like give a massage. She had like a massage room, and so we would just play and have fun.
That's cool. That's definitely real cool.
Yeah, mine was probably a little bit later. I think about how do I cover that, because I think probably in college my parents they bought a place in Michigan on Lake Huron. I think back to childhood, and even though I was later on it, like I guess it's kind of lump it in on childhood. It's just spending that time on the lake and just hanging out there and going out in the water all the time. And I love being around water, and I miss the freshwater lakes there. It's a little bit different in Maryland on it. So anything with water, jumping out on it, I'm game.
I love it. I have a boat license, so
Oh, nice.
I do like going out to Hart Miller Island and hanging out with friends, and every chance we try to get out there. A friend has a boat, so we take turns driving out there, and it's always a relaxing day to get out there and just love boats. Definitely love boats summertime.
Boating was a little part of our history as well.
Oh, okay.
It was a mistake.
It was a brief part of our history.
Was it Airbnb on a boat?
No, but we did. It was a boat that we kept in Fells Point, named Beyonce, and it was, you could sleep on it. So like sometimes when we would Airbnb our house in Baltimore, we would go stay on the boat. Mm-hmm. It needed a lot of work, and we're very happy to not be boat owners anymore.
I believe it.
It was a fun place to use to escape from when we were Airbnb in our house, but I spent more time working on it than I spent having fun on it, and I realized that's probably not our thing. And that's part of the reason after playing with the boat for a little bit where we jumped into this world, because we can work on these, but I don't have to worry about these houses sinking.
So that's a perfect segue about it. So Airbnbs, I mean, they're the thing. I mean, I haven't stayed in a hotel in probably over like 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. When you say your friends introduced you guys to the Airbnb market, what was your first reaction to that, hearing like, we ran out of the place, does this make sense, do we have time, is that something we really want to do? Like, take us through that train of thought when you guys first were introduced to it, and you're like, was there one of the two saying, now let's just leave this alone? Or was it kind of like, let's see how it happens and roll a dice and go with it?
We kind of just went for it, right? I mean, there were a few months of getting ready. It does force you to, like, if you're doing it at your own house, it forces you to kind of clean up and organize and make sure everything's in tip-top shape. So I guess that was a benefit. And it also forces you to kind of let go of material things in a way, like, I don't really care. Some people would always ask us, like, aren't you worried someone's going to mess with your book or whatever? And I just don't care, and people don't for the most part. We really look out with like great guests. So
Yeah, and how we got into it, I think, is after hearing our friends do that, it seems, it's your first reaction when people talk about it is, I don't know if I could have somebody in my space. And maybe you kind of get that initial first reaction, but after we thought about it, we're like, okay. But then I think it really hit us. We were on vacation one point, and we're hanging out. We're not at our house anyway, and we're like, you know what? Like, if we go on vacations and love to vacation in different spots, why not rent out our house? Well, we're not even going to be there. And so that kind of brought that forward. And then we just kind of went through the process of making an ad, getting pictures. And it was a good opportunity to like declutter and get rid of stuff and make your house like comfortable. A lot of people don't realize like you're not just doing it for the guest. I mean, we love to stay here too. And to make these spaces beautiful, you get to enjoy it as well. So it's the best of both worlds on it.
I mean, folks, this place is beautiful. We are only in one spot, but I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, this room is the sunroom, we'll call it.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. I can't wait for us to do some video and shoot around here, but it was some really cool. So the first one, was it in Baltimore? Was it your house in Baltimore? Okay. And then, so that was a test pilot. That was a test run. Okay.
Yep.
So that house is already ready to go, right, at that point.
Yep.
It was turnkey. You didn't have to do anything to it. How did that work out? Did you have any mishaps in the beginning where you're like, all right, this is how it started, and like, let's change it around this way. Or maybe we can charge a bit more. Or maybe, because in the beginning, I remember Airbnbs were like very new.
Yeah.
When you got, so that was like a new thing. Take us through that a little bit the first time.
We definitely question, like, is this the right thing to do and what's going to happen? I mean, if you don't doubt yourself, you're not taking it seriously, I guess. And it did really well, and we kept kind of raising the price, and to the point where we wanted to expand in Baltimore. Like, we were looking for other places to possibly do in Fells Point. I mean, we just believe in tourism and like people. That's how kind of a city grows, and we believe in Baltimore, obviously. And then they brought in the regulations. So they make it very difficult. I think you can Airbnb your primary residence if you're grandfathered in. So that's a whole other story. But unfortunately, we decided to just, after the regulations came in, we decided to invest elsewhere, out of state. So, and we wanted it to be, we're business people, so we're entrepreneurs, and we wanted it to be somewhere that was within 2 hours of Baltimore, D.C. area, driving distance so people can do like a quick weekend getaway, close enough for us to be able to, because when the emergencies come up, to be able to easily go there, on a night or weekend.
Yeah, so at that point, we were just looking for a place that's something different at that point, once we decided it wasn't going to be in the city. And so we were shopping around and said, well, what was affordable, what was close enough, what's close to DC and Baltimore, what can we get to easily, and settled in on a place in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, and bought that. And then immediately, whenever we buy a property, we don't see what it is. We're always walking in and seeing what it could be. And so everything we take on always needs work in order to customize it. So redid bathrooms, redid a kitchen on it, and took a log cabin from a dark structure to like a light and bright, really cool space. And we thought that it would do okay, but we thought we'd get a chance to use it. And for the first couple months, we were able to use it, but then it got busy. And next thing you know, we didn't really use it as much just because it was fully booked on it. And then I think by the time it was booked, we were kind of hooked on it, of saying, all right, this is really cool. So how do we run with this? So it's been fun.
And everyone thought West Virginia was crazy, and we're from the Midwest, and we enjoy like doing outdoor activities and stuff. But when we first said we're buying a cabin in West Virginia, people were like, what? So, and same when we rented out our house in Baltimore, they're like, that's your house. Why are you renting it out? And we always kind of got the people who were wondering what was going on and why we were doing that. But to me, that was part of taking the risk, and doing it and rolling it into something else and finding success there. So
I love it. We're going to be right back at these messages. We're going to talk a little bit more about where we are, how they got involved in PA, and this beautiful place, and how they started from scratch and rebuilt this thing, because it's beautiful from beginning to end. The pictures, they're amazing. So we'll be right back to these messages, folks.
The No Pix After Dark podcast is proudly partnered with Maggie's Farm. Located at 4341 Hartford Road, Maggie's Farm offers a unique dining experience with delicious handcrafted cocktails and mouth-watering cuisine, from falafels to scallops and everyone's favorites, honey sriracha cauliflower wings. Open for dinner from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m., Tuesday through Saturday, and for brunch, Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. with delectable chicken and waffles, shrimp and grits, biscuits and gravy, and more. Check out Maggie's Farm on Instagram and Facebook for daily and weekly food specials.
When you give to United Way, your gift could be the first spark of something bigger. It can help provide nutritious food for a family in need. Because eating healthy shouldn't be a luxury. It can help someone with housing challenges and be a catalyst for a new beginning. Because a safe space to call home is the foundation for building a better future. Give today. Spark something bigger.
The No Pix After Dark podcast is fueled by Zeke's Coffee. Have you tried their coffee yet? I'm telling you, there's something different about it. Maybe it's because they roast their beans in a fluid coffee roaster, which provides the most accurate roasting temperatures and made with love. You will just have to check it out for yourself and try their delicious food while you're at it. Open now for curbside service, online ordering, carry out, and they also do wholesale. Visit Zeke's Coffee at 4719 Hartford Road. Open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday, 8 to 5 p.m. Kitchen closes at 3 p.m. or visit Zeke'sCoffee.com and you too can be fueled by Zeke's.
Folks, we are back, and this is an exciting episode. I'm learning so much about Airbnbs, and I'm like, let me just scrap a couple of my nickels and dollars and coins up and really get into it. And we have Corey and Leigh here, and they've been an exceptionally great guests to have us here at their house here in Columbia, PA, right outside Lancaster, PA, right off Route 30. If you know where that is, come check it out, but get an Airbnb, reserve it first. So let's rewind a little bit back before we go into this place that we're in right now. So pandemic happened. You talked a little bit briefly about West Virginia. We'll talk about that a little bit later, a little teaser for that, folks. But West Virginia, pandemic happens. What do? Are you freaking out? You talked a little bit earlier, you're rolling. People are staying there left and right. March 13th, 2022. Mm-hmm. Take us through the whole process.
Okay, yeah, heading into that point, we'd had the cabin in Berkeley Springs, and then we'd bought the farmhouse property in Harper's Ferry. And so those were running pretty well on everything. But a lot of people, especially our larger property that in Harper's Ferry, we had a lot of groups come together on that. So you'd have families get together, groups of friends that would come up there and meet up. So when COVID hit, that was worrisome because all those different groups of people mixing on it, it's just the calendar cleared. I mean, it just immediately emptied out. So that was pretty scary, because we're going, okay, we've got the mortgage to pay, that bill's still come due and everything, but what are we going to do? But then we started to watch everything tighten down, really tight on lockdown. And DC effectively shut down, and things started to shift a little bit. Instead of 2-night rentals or 3-night rentals, now people were looking to get out of the cities and to get away from things a little bit. Because at that time, everything was, you heard COVID about in the cities. So next thing you know, we started to get inquiries for a week or a month and that. And it was smaller groups or, core families or things, folks that have stayed together and stuck together during that time would just go out to get away from everybody else. So it was really a worry for a little bit, but slowly it kind of built up, and it went okay. And then post-pandemic, not even post, but after people got used to it a little bit, it was busy because it was West Virginia. The idea of getting away and being out in nature, not being clustered around other people in a city, definitely brought a lot of people out to that area, and it made it super busy.
We had to really adapt and, enhance our cleaning practices. I mean, I'm pretty meticulous about cleanliness, and, we have a great team that we work with, but we had to follow and kind of sign a box that we follow these enhanced cleaning protocol, and, lots of disinfection and air purifiers and things like, at one point we even took out all the throw blankets and pillows in the house just because we didn't want to have to clean them in between each guest, which was kind of the protocol. They're, taking out all of the board games because we just couldn't rely on people to actually sanitize them between every guest. So there's a lot of that. And we still do the enhanced cleaning, and we also kind of check in with guests before they arrive, like, hey, is anyone showing symptoms? And we just ask them to be cautious about that, and if you get sick during your stay, to just notify us. So, some of it's kind of carried over to where we are now.
Wow. So as entrepreneurs, you're sitting there like, people are canceling. You're sweating a little bit. Like you said, the mortgage got to get paid.
Yep.
The electric bill got to get paid. Somebody has to do it. Was there any way were you modeling off anybody else out there? Is there like a Airbnb community out there that like that? Other Airbnb people like, hey, this is what we're doing. It's like a secret society of it. I don't know. I'm just, because you're taking advice from each other. So I'm just curious, was there any help out there saying, hey, we're doing this way, just going back and forth?
Yeah, and it's funny. We didn't really. There are tons of short-term rental host forums and communities that, especially now, I feel like so many people want to get into this industry, which is great. But back then, we didn't really participate in that. We were just head down, focused on how do we stay afloat in this business. And I wish we would have, frankly, reached out to other people. So.
Yeah, we just kind of weathered the storm on our own on that one, and a lot of it's just luck. With how things turned out with getting bookings back. They were different bookings, but we just had to adapt quickly. Pricing dropped precipitously on that one, but we got longer bookings on it. So you just have to look at, kind of what you're targeting in terms of how many nights you are and some of your rates. And when things happen, you got to adjust it and be willing to do that pretty rapidly on that. But it was okay. It was very worrisome though, super scary. Since then, we've started listening to a bunch of different podcasts and things in this area, and that's been helpful as well. But at the time, we were just flying blind. I don't know why. I should have looked out more.
We should have,
Hey, we have lots of mistakes over the time that we've done, and you learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
But you're here now, though, so it's always hard work pays off. So we're here in Pennsylvania. How did we end up here? Yeah, I mean, you're in Baltimore. We're out in West Virginia. Now we're in PA. I remember you guys mentioned in the beginning that you wanted to be close to Baltimore, D.C. area. Mm-hmm. This is only an hour drive from Baltimore. Okay, they're only 20 minutes from Lancaster, downtown PA, which is people you don't even know. You gotta come up here and check it out. It's a real quick drive, easy. So you're right near 30, a major highway. Mm-hmm. How'd you find this place and why PA?
So we originally we knew we wanted to keep expanding the business, and we were looking in West Virginia. We have a great realtor, shout out to Morgan, who's she's licensed in 4 states. So West Virginia, Pennsylvania, we were looking in Maryland, Virginia, and this was all in the fall of 2021. And I mean, the prices were they kept going up. The competition was really growing, and we have kind of a target, kind of a unique thing that we're looking for. We want something that has some character, some history, a place that is really unique. And, to your point about not staying in a hotel, there's a reason that you don't stay in a hotel, because you have a whole house that you can enjoy and has beautiful outdoor spaces. So, and it's also, we also wanted to find something that didn't have an HOA, because a lot of times they don't allow Airbnbs. So you have to be very careful on that. Tax implications, we had to consider that. But Corey found this one. I'll let you tell this part.
Yeah, I mean, our goal really was to stay in West Virginia on the expansion on it. I mean, our social media was set up around West Virginia name, and we adapted since we bought to Perennial Stays with the PA property. But We were just looking around, and in the end, you kind of go back to what your core values are in terms of where you want to go. And we like the historic aspect. We like the idea of, 2 hours away from major cities. And this one, since nothing was really interesting or, was drawing us in West Virginia, we said, well, this is still 2 hours away, and you're a little closer to Philly and a few hours from New York as well. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, Leigh thinks I'm nuts. I think a little bit because I'll always be hunting.
He's always hunting.
I look on Facebook page for the love of old houses. That's actually where we found the farmhouse was for that. Wow. Was on that page there. So we did that, and then I remember kind of thinking this house. I sent it to Leigh, but it wasn't in our core area we were looking at, and she saw it, and it was like, I kind of love at first sight on it. I mean, it kind of checked a lot of the boxes on the things that we look for in these properties that are just a little bit different and might scare some other people away. This property is actually 2 houses. So it's got the one property or the one house we're in, and across the driveway, a whole separate building on it. And to some folks as a family might look at that and say, well, that's how's that work for them? For us, it was super interesting on it. And so, we came out here and had our good poker face on as we're dealing with the seller's agent here. But we got in the car on the way home, and immediately we're like,
yes.
we had our realtor Morgan pre-draft the letter. So I think he got back to the office and was like, all right, here's the offer. And
So tell us about this place. I mean, it has so much character. I've heard there's streams come through here. Mm-hmm. And this is a former distillery?
Yeah.
Wow. So there's booze being made here.
There is. There was.
There's a lot of history in this building. So, is there any, can you tell us a bit about it or the history about this? And because, I mean, these walls could talk. I mean, there's a lot of stories here.
Oh, yeah. Mid-1700s is when we're told that the property originated. And there is an artesian spring that is actually the water source for the property. It's delicious. I don't know why. It's you'll have to taste it.
Wow,
I don't know. It's just very clean and crisp, and I don't know. And it's I just love the setting. It's idyllic. And then so this one was 1700s, and a former barn, former distillery. The one across the way that is coming to Airbnb soon we're told it was a general store at some point. We haven't really been able to kind of tie it back to the history, but that one was built in the early 1800s. And then my sister, who's a super savvy researcher and kind of journalist background, she traced all the deeds for the property, and so we were able to find tons of cool. We love history, so tons of cool, former residents and connections, like the former one of the founders of Franklin and Marshall, which is in Lancaster.
College,
He was the first treasurer. He was a former owner. Some other ties to George Washington, and
sure,
lots of cool.
Yeah,
history.
but I think the main reason this property is here as it sits is definitely the spring. It kind of is the source of why everything was built up, and the fact that 100-gallon per minute spring, just at every year round at 56, 59 degrees running was essentially created that distillery. So this place, that's why it was here, we think. I mean, we found, or Val found essentially the things from articles that were showing trading some of the spirits made from here for plaster. So, and that was probably in the 1800s back. So there's documentation that we've seen that shows it being used as a distillery on it, which is just really cool. But this building that we're in is a little bit older. It's all hand-hewn beams, so it's fun to look at the history that you can find online, but then you're kind of looking architecturally at the house and seeing how was it built. And so this one, the hand-hewn beams, we figured out that this is probably late 1700s on it. And then early 1800s, they added a sawmill down at the Susquehanna River here, right at Columbia. And the house next door, actually, you can see the saw marks on the beams. So instead of the hand-hewn marks of all the lumber felled on site for this building, that one, it's more true boards on it. So that was probably built after the sawmill came to be in this area. So it's fun on the press stuff trying to figure out what was written about the property and who lived here. but also just looking at how it was built and figuring out, what and when. And sometimes you're scratching your head why they did something like that. But, it's the fun of old houses.
Wow. I mean, I'm like having goosebumps hearing you guys talk about this. I mean, it's beautiful architecture. I mean, this is really amazing. How much work did you guys have to put into this house? Like, I mean, from start to finish, from like when you started, purchase the house, to first nail or first like jack or whatever you're taking out, from then to renting out the first day. Like, what? Give us a little background, because I think people don't know how much work it goes into this. It wasn't turnkey.
No.
Okay.
Not to, well, I mean, it could have been, but not to something that we would want our guests to experience.
Okay.
So we kind of moved in early January, and we immediately knew kitchen, both bathrooms need to be redone, lots of paint, every light fixture. But the good news is that this house doesn't have near the amount of plaster as the other house does. So we didn't have to do all the really messy plaster repairs. We did a bunch of paint. Certainly the furnishings, I mean, it takes a while to, find the right couch and chair to make a cohesive design and style. So I would say January until early May is when we were kind of hustling and working on it, and, working with different contractors, things like that.
Yeah, and my day job is as an engineer, and so when we walked into these houses, we saw how well, I mean, they've been here for a couple hundred years. They've clearly been built well, and they're stone houses that are 2-foot thick stone walls. They're not going to fall down. They're tough, and I always peek at, what's the structure underneath, all the non-sexy stuff, your plumbings, your electricals, and these houses were solid on it. So, as Leigh said, yeah, it was the cosmetics, making sure that it was a place, it was a place that you want to stay at, and it's always more work than you think. It always costs more than you think, too.
Scope always increases for some reason.
Do you guys go into it like with a budget in mind, and then the budget just goes out of the door, like it blows away? To a little point what you said, the old folks used to say, this house got some good bones on it. So that's like the old school saying, bones. So you sound, everything you're saying, it sounds like it has good bones on it. So you don't have to tell us the exact budget, but say if you came in, you're like, this is between $20,000. Have you just working with these projects in the past, do you always try to stay close to that budget? Or is it always that we really don't need this, but it's going to look good in this house? Because you say you think in mind of your guests. Think in mind, is that something that you guys think about?
Yes. And I think that's changed over the years. I mean, starting out in this business, we had to be very frugal, and we didn't have the money to get, the Pottery Barn sofa or the nicer version of whatever, a faucet. Right. But that was a lesson learned along the ways, because when we didn't kind of go for the quality initially, we had to do more repairs, and we were finding that the dining room table that we got off Wayfair that maybe was, not solid wood and not super good construction, 2 years later, after guests using it, we'd have to replace it. So, and it's more like a hassle at that time, because it's always an emergency when something like that happens. You have to kind of scramble and figure out how you're going to get a table quickly, how you're going to, get it out to the property in between guests. So it's to me, that's a lesson learned.
We definitely, on the first one, we were on a tight budget on the cabin, and we got that up and running. And then over time, we did some fixes and brought that up as well. And then we learned more on that farmhouse and that budget. I don't think we really budgeted much on that one, but we figured it out.
We didn't do a good job of it.
Yeah, but that one was more. And it's one of those where our properties have done well, and people love them, and so they come and visit, and we've been reinvesting that. And then having those properties, when it came time to buy this one, it's a lot of reinvestment of those of the funds made in these areas to keep the next project rolling on it. But
and we don't want to downplay. Yeah, we don't want to downplay the numbers piece. I'm a CPA by day, and Corey's extremely savvy financially. And really, where we look at it is on the ROI on the front end of purchasing the property. A rough budget, and it's always a rough budget, because you just never know what surprises you're going to find, especially in the historic properties. But just being conservative on what we think we're going to have to put into it, and the scope, again, always increases. We always say, oh, we can get away with that light fixture, and it always gets upgraded. So, yeah, it's not, we need to be better about budgeting, I think, on these projects, but we also are conservative about what we think the nightly rate can be when we're, kind of looking at it on the front end of purchasing. And that always is conservative, and we're always able to exceed it just because we do kind of lovingly and very meticulously restore and furnish the properties.
Yeah, how do you come up with the rate? I always wonder that. Like, some places have this rate, some places has a rate. Is there like a formula behind it?
It's a mix. It's not a formula. It's a mix of, heads and beds, they say in the short-term rental industry. I mean, that we kind of have a mixed feeling on that. But, how many people can it sleep? How many bathrooms does it have? Looking at how other Airbnbs are doing in the area. So before we purchased this one, we absolutely searched other properties that had similar size and location just to make sure that we weren't out of range with what we were thinking for nightly rate. So,
but we do like to, we're not going for the middle of the market. We do like to kind of have the nicer experience on these ones. So, we like to play in amenity rich areas. So, other, putting a lot of those features and other things that the other properties just don't have. We like those distinguishing things, the spring here, the pond on the side that's spring fed, all those little things are priceless on that. When people come here, they get this great experience that not every Airbnb is going to have.
So tell us how many bedrooms this house we're in, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, how many square feet. If somebody wants to come after they watch this, like, I'm going to book this right away. Like, tell us a little bit about it.
So it's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2 full baths. It sleeps 8 because we do have a sofa bed. A lot of people bring their families and little kids. But it sleeps 8 comfortably. We don't, you could probably squeeze in more, but that's not kind of what we're going for. We want our guests to have a good experience. And if you're having 10, 12 people sharing 2 bathrooms, that just doesn't seem, nice to me. So.
Okay. And did you have to add anything to, like, any add rooms or add any bathrooms here, or was it already here when you got here?
They were both here, yeah, existing,
Okay.
but we renovated top to bottom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the layout was great here, and sometimes in these old houses, they can have very chopped up floor plans, and that they're architecturally beautiful, but they can be on the cozy side in each of the rooms. But since this structure was used initially as like a barn or a distillery, it's taller ceilings, it's wide open rooms on a lot of these areas, which is very uncommon, and that's been great. And the previous owners did a great job in terms of creating the raw spaces that we were able to work with, and we just brought them up to the level that we would like.
So if I'm a person who wants to start Airbnb, wants to get into business, what are some things that you didn't know in the beginning that you could know now? They're like, hey, you throw some game to me saying, hey, this is Aaron. Maybe you might want to do this. Maybe you want to start like this. Because, getting that education of things unknown, what'd you get? Like, what are three things you would say on the top, like, if somebody wanted to get into this?
I would say research, but not too much. You do have to, understand the market, figure out which area you want to buy in, figure out where you're not going to encounter all the, short-term rental restrictions, which would be really problematic for your business. But then also just go for it. I mean, you can only do so much analysis and research. You can kind of get all that information, but if you're not willing to just dive in and do it, you're going to just kind of waste all your time. And then also another one that I have, I think, is distinguish yourself from other Airbnbs and kind of put yourself in what is a place that I'd want to stay in. If you're not putting yourself in your guest's shoes, I don't think you're maximizing your potential of your business as far as, profit and return on investment, right? If you're doing this, you want to get that return on investment. So put yourself in your guest's shoes, try and understand what people want, what they're looking for, and find ways to deliver it. And then my third one is what we already talked about. Don't cheap out. It's just going to end up costing you more in the long run. So, don't cheap out on the faucets, the beds. We are very particular about the beds we buy now. Nice mattresses, nice linens. People want that hotel. Think of it as a hotel. So what would you if you were going to stay at a 4-star hotel, 5-star hotel maybe, what would you expect and be looking for?
Nice.
I guess some of the key areas that we look at are location. So with that location, you got to, if you're looking to buy an Airbnb property, you got to think about how far are you from that property if you're going to manage that. And that's, we manage our properties.
Self-manage, yep.
And how far are other people? And we look at not just what major cities. I kind of take a map, I draw a radius, little circles around the cities, and I look for where they overlap. And then what are the draws? If I'm going to go stay at an Airbnb, I'm generally going to look at what's in that area. What would I initially search for in that area? That's some tourist draw that's going to bring you in there. Harper's Ferry has that draw. Lancaster's got that draw on it too. So that's a big one, is the location aspects of it. I guess on some of it is really know yourself in terms of what type of property that you're looking for. Leigh had mentioned differentiating yourself, but one thing that you got to consider is how much work are you willing to do yourself, or how much will you have to hire out, and then that location plays into that too, because you have to manage all that work, and that can be a challenge. The COVID era has been good in the sense that we can get out and work remote and see some of the things happening here, but that's a challenge, over time. So that location definitely plays into that. Yeah.
Make sure you have a good insurance, tax accountant, and realtor.
Yeah, and then with the locations, you got to think about, if you're going to pick an area, how it's going to, are you going to scale in that area, stay in that area? Because you're going to form all these relationships in that area. You're going to meet the local businesses, frequent those places, the contractors in that area, your cleaning area, people in that area. And if you can keep things in that area, then it just can be a little bit easier to manage on it. So if you have multiple areas on it, you just have to relearn some of those and build new relationships.
I love it. I love it. You guys answered every question I was to ask you. I love it.
You're ready to start an Airbnb now.
I know. I'm ready to stay here, folks. I will be here. I can't wait to stay here. It's beautiful. So I always ask speed round questions. This is we're done. That part. But so crabs or crab cakes?
Crabs, because it's more of a celebration, like the drinks and the time.
Crabs. But once or twice in a year, that's good. After that, once I have my fill for that, then it's crab cakes. So.
Okay. Ice cream or snowballs?
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
Okay.
We're the Midwesterners who never understood the Baltimore snowball. I just don't get the appeal of it, but
It's not just ice cream, it's custard for us, We do the custard side, so that's just Midwesterner in us.
Okay. Red or white wine?
Rosé.
Oh, is that okay?
Neither for me.
Neither for you. Doritos or Cheetos?
Spicy hot Cheetos.
Doritos. I think the Cool Ranch, even just because, I don't know, like memories of childhood with that. They make your breath terrible, but
You're always licking your fingers though.
yeah, live on the edge.
Drums or flats for chicken wings?
Drums.
More meaty.
Okay. Blue cheese or ranch?
Blue cheese for me. Especially if you have olives anywhere in the situation.
No on the olives and no on the blue cheese for me. No, I'm definitely ranch.
Okay.
Definitely ranch.
And what is the best advice you two have ever received?
One day at a time. And that's hard for me, and I have to remind myself that all the time, just because I'm a planner and kind of a strategy person. But if you start to think how much, I'll use the house as an example that we're renovating across the driveway. If you start to think of how much stuff there is to do and how you're going to get to that point, you start to get overwhelmed, and you just have to bite it off one day at a time. Don't think too far ahead. Still keep the strategy mindset, but don't overwhelm yourself.
Yeah, maybe not as advice as much that I got, but more like a saying that kind of sticks in my head. It follows the theme that Leigh mentioned, kind of a Zen saying of chop wood, carry water. Of, instead of getting overwhelmed, because these projects can be overwhelming at times, is to just do the next thing. What can I do next? Not to fix everything, but what can you do to just keep it moving forward? And then a way that helps me keep sane in all this on the renovation sides is to not look back at what you got done today, but look back in longer intervals of a couple weeks, and that helps me keep my sanity through this, of seeing, wow, maybe yesterday we didn't get everything done we hoped, but over 2 weeks a lot has gotten done.
I love it. Thank you guys. And where can we find you on social media for Perennials? Like, where can we get you guys so we can plug? Because we want people to stay here. We want people to come. It's only an hour away from Baltimore, folks. Quick drive, easy. Where can we find social media?
Perennial Stays on Instagram, and our website is there, link in the bio, where you can book a stay.
Folks, this is part of the new travel series that I'll be doing, highlighting things outside of Baltimore. You can go only an hour away. Thank you guys for having me here at your lovely place. This is an amazing interview. I've learned a lot. I'm actually taking notes in my phone right now because, man, I'm about to get in this hustle real quick. But I always tell people, if you couldn't figure out a hustle during the pandemic, then it's the only time you can really do something. And you guys are living proof that from Baltimore doing big things. And we want to salute you guys for doing something just amazing. And thank you for having us to come up here, having time. Thank you so much for you guys.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you so much.
And
for
happy
having us on
birthday.
the show.
Thanks. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Folks, love, peace. We're out. New travel series. Check it out.